Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This time it is a pickups video. This is Champion 2D Rub back again. How's everyone doing? I've just basically been enjoying the sort of more quiet time of the sort of post-Christmas period. I've had a lot more free time during the month of January. So I've just been, spending a lot of that time just sort of playing my games, really, just sort of really enjoying a lot of the stuff that I have in my collection. But I have to admit, I have sort of gone a little bit, I've overindulged a little bit in terms of buying retro games. Thanks to the Retron 5, it's sort of opened up another system for me that I've always wanted to sort of get back into, but I've always sort of held off for various reasons. But I'll get into that in a moment. But yeah, that's really what I've been doing. Just sort of a lot of my downtime has just been sort of enjoying a lot of these modern games and retro games. I haven't really bought any. I haven't bought any modern games. I think that's probably one thing I should highlight in this video is that there's not really any modern titles as such here. I did pick up a couple of last, or they're not even last gen titles. They're the generation before. I've got like a PlayStation 2 game here and a Wii title as well that I sort of picked up at CEX. But aside from that, it's all pretty much retro stuff. And some really good games as well. So I'm excited to show you guys. And as you would expect from my pickup videos, I've also got a couple of Blu-ray steelbooks to show you guys, as well as a VHS tape, VHS tape. Fumble my words. But yeah, something very, very retro, something that unfortunately is not available on DVD, and it's a cartoon. It's a retro cartoon, something that I grew up with as a kid, and I absolutely adored. In fact, let's start with that one. Yeah, this is a videotape, something that I just sort of picked up on a whim. I bought it on eBay. It cost me a couple of quid, plus £3 postage. And it's a cartoon that I grew up watching as a kid. I've actually, I'll tell you this. Basically, back in the sort of late 80s, I was about 8 years old. My mum bought us our first VHS player. And my mum didn't tell me anything that she was going to do this. She just decided one day she was going to buy a VHS player. But it wasn't just that. She also decided to buy me like a stack of tapes, just like from the off. She just bought me a stack of videotapes, and a lot of stuff that you guys have heard of. There was one sort of Looney Tunes compilation of sort of various episodes that I absolutely adored because I love Looney Tunes. She got me Ghostbusters the movie, which it was the first time I'd seen it. I would have been too young when it first came out at the cinema, so that was my discovery of Ghostbusters, which again I absolutely adored. What else did she give me? I got Visionaries. There was like a Visionary tape, which is like another retro cartoon. I also got one videotape with sort of like a compilation of episodes of Action Force, which to you Americans, you'd know it as G.I. Joe. I was a really big fan of G.I. Joe when I was a little kid. Over here in the UK, it was known as Action Force. So I got like a tape with like a few episodes of that, which I absolutely loved. And I also got Transformers. I got like it was a Transformers tape with a few episodes, of the early series as well. So along with all of that, I also got this one. And when I first saw it, I was a bit unsure of it because while I do love, because this is basically a cartoon it's a licensed cartoon. It's actually based on something that does exist in real life, and they sort of built a cartoon around it. So I was a little bit wary of it as a kid, even though as a kid I loved this particular thing. Um, yeah, so I'll just show you and we'll talk about it. What I got was Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines. Yeah, it's a little bit, a bit of a funny title, but yeah, it's basically a cartoon that was built around the Bigfoot monster truck. That you know, I actually did it as a kid. I remember seeing footage of the monster truck and just absolutely loving it. In fact, one of my dreams as a child was to one day own a monster truck. But yeah, so they sort of built this cartoon around it, and unfortunately, the cartoon never became a series. They sort of made a few episodes, and then for the UK release anyway, they sort of edited all the episodes together to sort of make this sort of one-off movie. And as a kid, I absolutely adored this film. You know, watching it now, it's such a silly premise, but it is so much fun. It was actually made by the same people that made the Transformers cartoon and the G.I. Joe cartoon, so it has that same sort of animation that looks quite crude today, but it uses a lot of the same musical scores that they used in those cartoons as well. And if you listen closely, you'll also recognise a lot of the voice actors that you would have heard in Transformers and G.I. Joe. They also, a lot of these actors also did work on this film as well. And yeah, I mean, I can't really explain it to you guys, but look it up on YouTube, Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines. It's got a very catchy tune as well, opening theme. But yeah, I just loved it as a kid. It was just a great sort of cartoon. Richard Turner, I think you'd appreciate this, because I know you like trucks and whatnot. You definitely like this sort of retro cartoon that's sort of centered around guys that drive around these big muscle cars. It has a very cool plot. The plot is sort of about, it involves basically the Fountain of Youth. It's basically this girl, she sort of breaks into sort of like a monster truck rally, and she's being chased by these criminals. And when she breaks into the monster truck rally, she sort of hides like this map underneath the seat of the Bigfoot truck, you know, because she knows she's going to get caught. You know, and eventually the criminals find that she doesn't have the map, and then they figure out that she must have stashed it in one of the trucks. But the drivers of the trucks, they're on their way to like another show, and it's basically them sort of like on a road trip, and then they're basically being attacked, and they don't know why they're being attacked, and eventually they do, and they just, you know, they team up with the girl, and you know, it's a lot of action. It's very cool if you like your trucks and cars. It's a very enjoyable cartoon. I think it's a very underrated cartoon. Yeah, it never became a series. It just sort of like a one-off. They did a few episodes, and that was that really. But yeah, a great one. Definitely something that I hold dear to me. Now, the reason I had to rebuy it was because for whatever reason I lost my original copy, which is strange because I actually have all the original tapes that my mum gave me back then. I still have them to this day, but this one got lost somewhere. I don't know what happened to it, so I'm glad to finally have it back. Okay, now moving on to the steelbooks. So just a couple here. Now these steelbooks are actually two that I picked up in December. I just completely forgot to include them in my last video. And the first one, you might remember my last pickup video was very Disney themed. So this steelbook is a Disney film, and it's actually the Rescuers, a film that I grew up watching as a kid. And the reason why I opted to get the steelbook as opposed to the collector edition DVD slipcase was because this was going for a very good price on Zavvi, and I couldn't pass it up, so I just opted to get it as a steelbook. Very, very nice steelbook, and a very good film. Very much enjoyed this one. And the next one I got also from Zavvi. I still yet to open it, and that is The Expendables 3. Still sealed, haven't opened it yet. To be honest, I didn't think much of this film when I saw it at the cinema. I think the second one is probably my favourite of the three movies. but I just sort of picked it up more because of the completionist in me. I have the previous two in Steelbook, so I thought I'd pick up the third as well. And it's actually a very, very nice Steelbook. It's a little bit embossed. The skulls are embossed, and so is part of the lettering. It's a very, very nice looking Steelbook. So, you know, yeah, just chuffed to have it. Need to watch it again though. I've only seen it once, so definitely need to give it another chance. Right now, let's moving on to the games. The first 3 games here I actually picked up at CEX. Now, I just sort of popped into CEX while I was sort of out and about doing my shopping. And I was actually quite surprised to see what they had at the PS2 section. Someone must have traded in like all their sort of JRPGs, because there was like a whole load of JRPGs there. There was Suikoden 5 was there, Phantasy Star was there, and one of the third Dot Hack games was there. Although I was shocked that for the price that it was going for. I mean, CEX was selling it for £42, which is probably the most expensive used game I've ever seen in a shop. And I mean, I'm used to seeing stuff like that on eBay, but it's very weird to see a used game going for such a high price. And the condition wasn't even that good, to be honest with you. The case was pretty beaten up. So yeah, I know, you know, it's quite a sought after title, the Dot Hack series. So needless to say, I passed on all of them. But one of the games that was there, and I'm assuming this was probably handed in by the same guy, because it was just kind of weird to see all these sort of RPGs there at the same time. So I'm guessing someone must have handed his collection in. And I saw this game there, and this isn't really an RPG, but it's just sort of one of those obscure games that I know it probably appealed to some of those people. And I just sort of saw it. I did look it up on eBay. I saw it was going for a lot more money than they was charging at CEX, so I thought I'd take a punt on it. And the game is Demon Chaos. So you've got it for a £5. It looks to me more like a Dynasty Warriors sort of game, but it's definitely one of those titles that you know, it's a Konami title. I don't know much about it. I have seen the cover before, but I don't know much about it, so I thought, you know, it was probably worth a punt. So for £5 I picked that up, and yes, it is complete. And the next title that I picked up at CEX, this app, I've still yet to play it. I've actually no idea what this game is. I don't know if it's a fighting game or a shooting game. I have no idea what this game is like. All I know is that the game, people say the game is good. And it was going for £2, so I thought I'd take a punt on it as well. And that is Deadly Creatures. I've heard a lot of good things about this, even though I actually have no idea. I've not looked up any footage on this game. I just sort of saw it there. I remember people saying good things about it, so I thought I would take a punt. And of course it is complete, and for £2 I thought that was a good deal for that game. And lastly, CEX. This was actually quite unexpected, as you don't really get a lot of retro games at CEX. You might get a few PS1 games and whatnot, but at least at my CEX, the nearest one to me, you don't really get a lot of retro titles. But this was there, and surprisingly, it's actually quite hard to find on eBay, boxed and complete. And it was going for a decent enough price, so I thought I'd pick it up. And that is Kong, King of Atlantis for the Game Boy Advance, and it's in surprisingly decent nick. It is complete, and what it basically is, it's like a 2D side-scrolling action game, and I picked it up for a £5. It was going for £5, so I thought I'd take a chance on it. I actually have played it briefly via emulation, but it had been so long, so I couldn't really remember what it was like. But you know, it's nice to see these sort of GBA games out in the wild. There was a few other games they had there as well, boxed, but they were all sort of kiddie titles that I wasn't interested in. This was the only one that sort of piqued my interest, and I thought for £5 that's definitely worth picking up, especially given its condition. And I've looked it up on eBay. You don't see many copies boxed and complete, so you know, I was quite chuffed to have this. And but to be honest, it's pretty mediocre. It's a pretty mediocre side-scrolling action game. You know, it's like it's an action platformer, beat 'em up type of game, and you get to play some human characters, and then eventually you get to play as Kong. The first level you primarily play as a human character, and he's pretty shit and boring to play as. But once you get to play as Kong, it becomes a little bit more interesting. But on the whole, it's a pretty generic game. But you know, it's nice to have in the collection. It was definitely, I think, it was worth taking a punt on as well. Okay, so like moving on now to the main bulk of what I picked up. Thanks to the Retron 5, it just sort of reignited my enthusiasm for Super Nintendo, and I've also decided to jump into the NES game collecting. Yes, the Nintendo, the original Nintendo system. I've absolutely always thought about picking up for it. But the reason why, because I've had this conversation with other YouTubers in the past. Some people have asked me, you know, why don't you pick up an NES? Because I have stated before, I believe it was in my gaming history vid, you know, that I grew up with an NES. So I've got very nostalgic memories for the system. But I've always held off from picking up an NES for a couple of reasons. The first being primarily because you know, it's such a rich library that I would just sort of fall into this trap of like picking up a lot of games for it, and I just sort of felt I didn't really want to, because I was already sort of picking up at the time I was already picking up for Mega Drive and Super Nintendo, you know, and I was going for box games as well, and as we all know, Super Nintendo games are not cheap, so I just felt I just couldn't really stretch to NES games as well. And to be fair, you know, like I have picked up a few NES titles here, but they're not boxed. I'm not going for boxed NES games because I feel, number one, they look good even without being boxed because they have top labels, so you can stack them and you can see what they are. So they look nice on the shelf regardless. But I just sort of felt that at the time I just wasn't prepared to sort of delve into another collection. But as of late, I haven't really been picking up many Super Nintendo games. I've been delving more into the Super Famicom titles, as they're a lot more affordable. And, you know, I mean, from a Super Nintendo, PAL Super Nintendo, I've pretty much gotten all the games I want for it. So a few of the other titles that I want to get, but I'm just not willing to spend silly money on in terms of the PAL releases, it's just nice to get them boxed and complete on the Super Nintendo. So I actually did pick up one Super Famicom title here, and it's a title that I've been looking at for the PAL system for a very long time, but it either goes for silly money or the condition just doesn't really match up to what I want. And sometimes, you know, they're selling the game at a ridiculously high price, even when the game is in really poor condition. So I've just held off for a long time, but it's one I've wanted to check out, you know, and look for, you know, just been wanting to get it for a long time. So finally I've gotten it, and the game is Hook. Very cool 2D action side scroller. I'm quite a fan of the game Sky Blazer, which was made by the same development team. And yeah, so just really chuffed to get this finally, and it's in a lovely condition. I picked it up from a seller in, I think it was France, I'm not too sure. Possibly Holland, I'm not too sure. It was in lovely condition. It was actually in much better condition than I anticipated. I believe the seller listed it as good, but the manual was crisp. The manual didn't even look like it had been used. It looked like old stock, like new old stock to me. So really chuffed to finally have this in the collection, in my Super Famicom collection. Yeah, really chuffed. Okay, so back to the NES. I actually picked up a stack of NES titles here. Yeah, just basically, you know, since getting the Retron 5, like I said, it reignited my interest in picking up NES titles. Now I did say, yeah, the reason why I held off from getting into the NES was A, because it has such a big library of games, I didn't really have the money to stretch for all those titles, but also because I just wasn't a fan of the system itself. Now, don't drop those rocks. You know, don't stone me, people. But the reason why was, even though I have a lot of nostalgic memories for the NES itself, I also have a lot of bad memories of the NES. You know, while I did very much enjoy the games when I was a kid, I loved the games that the system had, I felt that the console, from a design perspective, was flawed. It just never. I used to have a lot of trouble getting the game started, and it just really used to bug me as a kid. And it's one of those memories that I have that unfortunately is not really a positive memory. I mean, I know a lot of us look back on our time with these retro systems fondly, but unfortunately for me, with the NES, while it was mostly a positive experience in terms of the games that I played on it, I don't have a lot of fond memories of the system itself. I found the system to be very annoying to get going, and yeah, so I wasn't crazy on the idea of buying a used system. I know you can actually buy a replacement pin set, so you can get like a brand new pin set, but I'm not technically minded like that. I know there's tutorials on it and stuff like that, but I just wasn't willing to go through all that hassle. It just didn't interest me enough. But since having the Retron 5, you know, it's hooked up to a modern TV, which again, it's all about space saving. I mean, I've covered all this in my Retron 5 review, so if you want to know why I picked up the Retron 5, just watch that video. But you know, because it upscales a lot of these games to a nice, crisp picture, you know, it's nice being able to sort of play these games at a really cool resolution, and you know, with a modern day TV, without having to use any converters or anything of that nature. So yeah, so I've got 6 titles here for the NES, and they're all really good games, guys. And the first game I picked up, let's see, first game I picked up here. Sorry, I'm a little bit just sort of watching my camera, and the red light is blinking, which is not a good sign. So I'll probably have to speed this up. First game I picked up for the NES is Power Blade. Basically, you know me, guys. You know, I could have gone for the more mainstream titles, but I decided to go for sort of more obscure titles. I mean, there are some well-known titles here, but I opted to go for more obscure titles. So the first one I went with was Power Blade. I've heard a lot of good things about this game. So you know, it's an action side scroller, definitely my cup of tea, and yeah, really chuffed to get this one. Next title I got here, and I'm a big fan of Ninja Gaiden, and I've seen this game on many people's hidden gems list. It's not an expensive game either, and that is Blue Shadow. This game is also known as Shadow of the Ninja in the US, and yeah, it's a fantastic title, guys. Great 2D side-scrolling ninja action game. Well worth checking out, guys. This is an awesome title. Next title I got here, and this was actually a game that I bought based off the recommendation of Retro Dave Nintendo. He's always going on about this game in his videos. I've never played it. I am a fan of the license though, so you know, I've seen footage of this game. It did look really cool to me, so I decided to pick it up, and that is Gremlins 2, the new batch. Awesome game. Thanks, Dave, for the recommendation, mate. This is a quality title, top down, sort of run and gun kind of action game. Great music as well, really nice music. I'm actually a really big fan of Gremlins 2, the movie. Big fan. I've actually seen Gremlins 2 more than I've seen Gremlins 1. I absolutely love the second film. It's a great film, and this is a fantastic game based around it. So yeah, really chuffed to get this one. So thanks a lot, Dave, for the recommendation, mate. And the next title I picked up here, and again, this is a game that probably most of you wouldn't think to pick up, as it's from a license that probably think, you know, the game's probably going to be really crap. But no, it's actually a surprisingly really good game, and it's from Konami, and that is Monster in My Pocket, a very good side-scrolling action game. well worth having a hunt down, guys. Very, very cool game. You know, it's a, what was it, Falcom game, which everyone knows was one of the names that Konami used when they were releasing titles during the 8-bit and 16-bit era. So yeah, very, very cool game. Definitely look this one up, guys. Monster in My Pocket. If you like games like Castlevania, it's basically what it's kind of like. It's like an action 2D action side scroller, very much in the Castlevania sort of mold. Very, very cool game. And the last two titles I've got here, guys, are Blinders. Definitely games I've wanted to add. Big fan. Both of them are licensed games, and they're both top quality games. And the first one I picked up here, this was actually spurred on by Richard Turner. He picked this game up. It was definitely one on my list as well to get, and that is Bucky O'Hare. Again, another Konami title. Never played this game before as a kid. Absolutely loved it. Fantastic title. And I was actually quite chuffed to get this, actually. I managed to buy this on eBay as a buy it now, well below the going rate. Someone basically listed it for below the general going rate to buy it now. I mean, it was literally on not even an hour, and I just sort of snapped it up. I mean, given its condition, because basically, for me, when it comes to buying these loose carts, I forgot to sort of show you before, they have to have, the end labels need to be really nice. I have to have that. For me, what's important is the labels. And this was listed as good condition, so I was a little bit wary. When it showed up, it was a bit sort of mucky, but I cleaned it up. I opened it up, cleaned out the pins, cleaned the back of the box. It's all clean now, so it looks really great now. So really, really chuffed to get this. This is a brilliant game. I've never played it before. I'm more familiar with the arcade title by Konami, which was like a beat 'em up based on the Bucky O'Hare cartoon series, which I did used to watch as a kid as well. I did watch that cartoon when I was coming home from school. But yeah, fantastic title, well worth playing, guys. Definitely check this one out. And the final game here is one I've been aching to play for a very, very long time, and I thought I was going to have a lot of trouble picking this game up, but it wasn't actually too bad to find. I did have to import it from the US, but it arrived with no problems at all. Very nice condition, and the game I got was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project. It's a great side-scrolling beat-em-up. One I've always wanted to play. I've always been curious to play this game, so I'm very, very glad to finally have it in the collection. And it's brilliant. It's a fantastic title. It predates Turtles in Time. I think this came out in and around the same time as Turtles in Time for the Super Nintendo. But not a lot of people got to play this game because by that point most people had moved on to the Super Nintendo. So this is one of those titles that was unfortunately ignored by a lot of people, but seems to have been rediscovered in recent years by fans. So yeah, very, very chuffed to get this as well. So that's it, guys. I mean, that's pretty much been it. Yeah, I just sort of overindulged a little bit on the NES. My mind was set. I do have a few more games that I'm planning to get, but I'm going to really take my time when it comes to NES. I think I'd like to get maybe one game a month or so. But I do have a few more that I want to add into the collection. I don't want to get too many titles because, you know, there's just so many titles available for the NES. It's just such a massive collection that I'm being very, very careful what I pick up. Initially, I was going to go for the games that I had as a kid, but to be honest, most of the games that I had as a kid were games that I have in other formats, primarily Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 3. Those games I have in so many different formats, it didn't really jump out at me that I had to get them for the system. There is one title I'm definitely going to get for the that I had as a kid that I'm going to pick up. Another title that I did have as a kid, which was Wrath of the Black Manta. I didn't really like that game, so I don't see myself picking that one up. And the other title I had as a kid was Mega Man 3. I might still pick that one up. It's a pricey title, but I might still pick it up because I do remember enjoying it a lot as a kid. Even though I technically already have Mega Man 3 as part of the Wily Wars on the Mega Drive, I might still want to pick it up just because that's, you know, it plays a lot differently, I think. So that's probably one that I will pick up. I'm still on the fence about getting the Mario Brothers games, just because I have them on so many other formats. But you know, yes, I'm jumping into the NES games, picking up, you know, just a few titles here and there. There are a few titles that are on my wish list. A couple that have come to mind. I want to get the Batman game, and I also want to get Darkwing Duck. Those are two titles that are definitely on my list to get. There are a few more as well, but we'll see where we are with those. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Let me know what you guys think, and yeah, so I'll be back very soon. Bye-bye.